Now, it's still difficult. It's still something that you take every day as it comes. Some days I'm at peace with it and I'm come to terms with the fact that he's not here. Other days it's difficult because he's 28.
At the time, I didn't think at all about the consequences. There was no aspect of what, before it happened, of what could be the outcome or where I could end up or where Marvin could end up. There were no thought process at all about the consequences at all.
I got to the point particularly where it seemed like such a motiveless crime that we wanted answers. Why would somebody do this? Why would somebody harm the friend in such a way? There must surely be more to this case than what we found out from the courts and from the police. I knew then that there was a path where potentially this meeting could go ahead. I jumped at it. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do the meeting with the offender, where I had 10 years of questions I'd tried to get answers to. And I contacted the courts for the transcripts. I wrote to the offender, and he did reply to me. He did write me a letter, but you didn't get the same answers from a letter that you could get from a face-to-face meeting.
The victims, they gain a massive amount from the restorative justice process. They gain closure from the crime. There is numerous questions that need to be answered, and the only person that can answer those questions is the offender, the person that actually committed the crime. So again, it's all well and good the police officer saying, oh, that person is very sorry for what they've done. This is what happened to you when you were out of your house or when you were unconscious. This is what happened, if we know. But generally, we don't know every finite detail of what went on. The only person that knows that is the two people involved in the particular crime or incident.
The police made the initial contact with the probation service. They then contacted me. I spoke to a lady called Geraldine. She spoke to me about the process, what it involved, and how they would need, obviously, to get the offender's agreement before we could move forward. So although it was a lengthy process, it was a process with phone calls and meetings, basically to make sure that both I was ready for the meeting and that the offender was ready for the meeting, and that all safeguarding issues were in place to make sure that the meeting was done in a safe and harm-free environment, mentally and physically, really.
To make somebody suitable for going through RJ, someone who has committed a crime, I would say they need to be fully accepting of their own behaviour, ready and willing, with a desire to understand that behaviour and to understand the impact that that's had on all of those around them, the victim and perhaps their own families, all the people they've harmed in the process.
It wasn't a fact that it was for me. I had to do it for them. I was the only person there that night. I was the only person who could give them the answers to the questions that they had. So for me, it was the least that I could do.
If a victim wants to start restorative justice, and then obviously we have the contact with the perpetrator of that crime, I think it's important to let them know that the victim has requested restorative justice. Make sure that the perpetrator knows fully what it involves, what the process would be, and then regular meetings and assessments before the actual conference takes place. Could start with a letter, but yeah, at any stage just being available to explain the process and assessing to make sure that when it actually does go ahead, it's going to be suitable and appropriate for everyone involved in it.
We do feel like we were supported definitely by the probation service. We had quite a few meetings with them where they came to our house, and we actually sat down and did like a run through of exactly what the conference involved, and they sat there and they talked to us about what we would experience there, what would happen there. So we were very well prepared for the conference, and they even drove us to the conference and back as well. So we weren't trying to drive nervous or afterwards when our heads were full of what had happened. So we found it very supportive that way. There's always the fear that, you know, he'd be a madman, really. And I know it sounds silly, but I worried that he'd go through this process and pretend to be normal and then sit in front of my face and laugh or say, you know, I've done this, or be abusive or something. Because we've had this fear of him for years and years. So, you know, there was always that, how he was going to behave, how he was going to react. I had no fears about my conduct because we'd reached a point where we wanted answers, and we knew that we wouldn't get the answers we wanted from the offender by screaming, shouting and getting angry. We needed to talk to the offender, show him that, you know, we wanted to behave with dignity and we wanted to get the things that we wanted from him in a dignified manner.
It was really difficult to walk into that room. Meeting them was really hard to start with. There was a lot of emotion, and obviously to go through that evening with them step by step was quite difficult.
I wanted to walk away with answers. I wanted to ease my conscience that before the offender was out in public, that I'd gone face to face with him and I'd reiterated the seriousness of what he's done to my family, and that was really, really important to me. You know, we got the answers, we got what we needed from the meeting, and that's what I wanted, answers. I saw that he was calm. I saw that he was calm under pressure. I got to speak to him. I got to, you know, listen to how it's affected his life, and I got to tell him how his actions had affected the lives of me, my brothers and sisters, my children. You know, everything. My job, I lost my job over it. Every single thing that had happened had had an impact on somebody in my family in some way, and it was good to relay that to him.
And nothing holds an offender to account more than facing up to the harm that they've caused and meeting that person that they have caused direct harm to. And I think that's the bit that might be missing in a lot of cases, because if you hear offenders say, who have never met their victim, yes, I know what I've done, I'll not do it again, you know, I'll move on, I'll do this, I'll make better choices. Sometimes they do, but sometimes offenders don't make better choices, and we see them back again with us. By meeting and facing up to the harm that they've caused, and the victim holding the offender to account, the person who's been harmed can question the harmer to such a degree that they do take a lot more responsibility and have a better understanding of that.
Things that I felt about that day, it's given me more of an understanding of the impact that I've had on other people's lives. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, and I am glad that I got the opportunity, and I was given the opportunity to do it, on the grounds of to be able to give them a little bit of peace of mind. For it to actually, throughout my sentence, I've talked about the crime on courses, but not to the people who it really mattered to. So, on a sense, it's been difficult to have that, to want to share that with the people it really mattered to, but not being able to for such a long time. And I'm glad that they gave me the opportunity to be able to do that.
Since the meeting, I feel much more relaxed about the situation. I feel much more relaxed about the offender's impending release. I don't have the nightmares. I don't think as much about what happened to Marvin as what I used to do. I used to dwell on you know, Marvin's last moments and you know, the evilness of the crime, the seriousness of the crime, and I find that I don't dwell on that anymore, and I feel much more at ease in myself over the situation than what I did before the meeting.
I was sat in my cell, and it was just, for me, sat there thinking about everything they'd said that day, and how desperate they were to get the answers, that they've been waiting for such a long time to be able to get that answer as well. I just couldn't imagine what they've been through each day.
Hopefully the person who's committed the crime will also take something back from the RJ. They may go into the RJ not really thinking that they're going to get anything out of it. They will hopefully have some remorse towards the victim and some empathy towards the victim, and hopefully it will help them to understand how their actions have impacted on a victim.
You have to be open, you have to be honest, and you have to be transparent. There's no point going on it if you just think it's going to be a tick in the box exercise, or if you think it's going to help you get your Cat D or something like that, because it's not. It's very powerful and very emotional, and it's not to be taken lightly, and it's not for everybody. There is a lot of emotion involved on all parts, and nobody knows what's going to happen when you step through that door either.
Service users can put themselves forward either in prison to their offender supervisors or their offender managers. Victims can put themselves forward through the arresting officer, any police officer in the force, victim liaison officers, or through victim support.
It works, it's proven to work, and it works from the lowest level offenders to the most serious type of offences. And I think that's one of the key things we have to say. Although people go through the criminal justice process in varying degrees with varying lengths of sentences, the impact of any type of crime on any victim is immeasurable. It's immense. You cannot quantify it.